This week on Writers, Inc.
We're all readers first, right? So it's thinking about what is interesting to you as a reader. Not every book is going to be for every person, and that's okay. Not everyone's going to like police procedurals, but the people who do are going to find you. So it's about looking at the contents of your book, looking at the themes and the sub-themes and, the hook, the juicy stuff that you're really interested in, and pulling those out to think of what would be most interesting to me as a reader. Because I think most of us write the books that we want to read. So it's about switching from your writer mindset to your reader mindset. What do I love to read? What fascinates me about this book?
J.K. Rowling was nearly homeless when she wrote the first Harry Potter book. Stephen King penned Carrie in a small desk wedged between a washer and dryer. James Patterson worked in advertising and famously crafted the Toys R Us theme song long before becoming an author. Join New York Times bestseller J.D. Barker and a panel of industry powerhouses as they pull back the curtain on some of the world's most prolific authors. Where did they start? What is their process? The biggest names in publishing all have origin stories. All have tips and secrets. What does it take to consistently top the bestseller lists and become a household name? Get your notepad out. School's in session. This is Writers, Inc.
Hi, it's Christine Daigle.
JP Rindfleisch.
Kevin Tumlinson.
And I'm JD Barker. Welcome to Writers, Inc. So we've got an emergency here at the Barker household. Our refrigerator died.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Has this ever happened to any, first of all, it's only 2.5 years old. I know they're building obsolescence into the equipment and hardware and appliances and stuff these days, but there's still stickers on it. We haven't even taken all the plastic tape off the shelves inside. and my wife texted me last night. She's like, I think our refrigerator's broken. And I walk in the kitchen and she's standing in a puddle in front of the freezer part. I don't know what the deal is, but it was right after she went shopping too. It's she just literally loaded it all up, and all those groceries are probably bad at this point.
Have you checked breakers? Because a lot of times those things are notorious for tripping breakers.
Yeah, no, I flipped all the breakers. I pulled the back off of it to make sure there was nothing like a reset or something that got tripped or whatever. It's making noise. It sounds like it should be running. It's just not getting not getting cool enough. The freezer is 50 degrees and the refrigerator is 50 or 48 or 49, but it's not cooling any more than that. So it's it's toast. So I ordered a brand new one off Lowe's because I panicked. I'm like, shit, get another one in here really quick. And then I scheduled a repair guy to come out. But the new one was $2,000, and adding up all the repair costs, I'm guessing I'm going to be at least half of that. Ugh. So it almost kind of makes sense just to get another one.
Right.
And I'm thinking just take this one and put it out in the garage so we've got a spare, someplace to hold all the beer for when Kevin visits. But yeah,
Kevin's beer fridge.
Yes,
Kevin's beer fridge.
I'll tell you about my refrigerator.
That's going on with me. Nothing related to writerly stuff.
Oh, I have fridge stories. So yeah, I'm all about this. So my fridge was making weird noises too, and leaking, and it was the fan in the back of the freezer had got covered with ice.
Yeah.
So I YouTubed it as I do things, and I took a hairdryer to it, and it fixed it, and then it was working the next day. I defrosted it.
Yeah.
And it needs it again because it's growing small elder gods in there again. So I'm going to have to hairdryer it again.
I was honestly thinking it was something like that because she had just gone shopping. So she loaded up the freezer, literally stacked everything to the top. And right in the instruction manual, it tells you not to block certain vents because the airflow doesn't happen and then it'll freeze up. But no, that's not it. I actually unplugged it last night, let it defrost and plugged it back in again and got the laser thermometer out all excited this morning, hoping it was going to start dropping. And it's it dropped a half degree.
No.
Oh, no, it didn't. It's still
just a lemon.
So
So I wanted to ask you though, JD, in writer news, I got an email this morning that said you're doing online thriller school, teaching architecture of thriller. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so we do. This actually came out of COVID. This is probably one of the better things that COVID was responsible for so many good things.
That's right.
No, wow. This was ITW basically did everything in person, at Thriller Fest, and because of COVID, the conference had to go virtual. So we've actually kept a lot of that because international thriller writers. We've got a lot of people that are overseas that can't make it to New York every year. So we found that there's a ton of people that are just would love to have classes online. So we've been doing that. So I'm basically teaching day one of thriller school this year. I'm just going into the architecture of designing a fast-paced thriller. So I'm just going into what I do to build the framework of that, to make sure the pacing is there, make sure the story is spaced out properly. And it's a lot of fun. I love working with people on that sort of thing. Usually we got small groups. They keep them to like 10 or 12 people, like on purpose. And it gives us a chance to actually interact with everybody on a one-to-one basis. So always a good time. So if you're looking for anything like that, just visit the thrillerauthors.com, ITW, Thrillerfest, all those things have links to it, and sign up for the online thriller school.
Very cool.
That's
the other
cool.
thing I was curious about is we had talked, I can't remember how many episodes now, Kevin, about your Substack. I'm just curious how that's been going for you.
You know, I've been doing it, the free one, for all this time and building up an audience. I've had some posts that did very well received. And it seems like the more you're willing to kind of be vulnerable and open up and talk about how you have anxiety and depression, things like that, people really respond to that. But I decided that today, actually, that I was going to try the paid, try to monetize it, get the paid subscriptions going. So I posted I've been writing a novella, and what I decided was I made a cover for it. I put the first chapter, I guess, up with a brief explanation of what I'm doing. And I used all their default settings for like rates and stuff. It's like $8 or whatever. In the first 30 minutes, I haven't been able to check since then, but in the first 30 minutes, it's made $88, which is a good sign. So I'm going to just continue to monitor that. But I think this is a really great tool I like giving people content for free as much as I can. But I figure the monetized stuff is like, I'll do short stories and novellas and chapters and show my work in progress, things like that, special stuff that the authors can only get if they subscribe, or the readers can only get if they subscribe. But I think it's a great way for writers to monetize some of what they're doing.
Is this all strictly text, or is there video involved, or audio?
I haven't done any of the video stuff yet, but they do have that and podcasting are options, and I'm thinking I will start doing some content like that. The key, I was told, there's three things I was told. The first thing was, and this is from people who are already using it this way, but they said that you could count on about 1% of your free subscribers going over to become paid subscribers, on average. That's a pretty good number for me. So I'm happy, if I get 1% of those people give me $8 a month, I'm going to say goodbye to all you guys at that point and buy some items.
We'll give you $8 a month if you stick around.
The other piece of advice was posting twice a week on Substack is the better plan. So 2 pieces of content each week, and one piece can be paid. That counts. But the Substack itself apparently likes that and wants to promote channels that do that. And the third thing was. Well, I've forgotten what the third thing was, but it's great advice. And when I think of it later, I'll blurt it out in the middle of the conversation.
Just start screaming. There's a ditch on Wilbert Street.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think what I'm looking at, I think it was probably something to do with doing, multimedia content, because, that attracts a broader audience. They've got all these things that they've been building and releasing, like the notes thing, where they've got a chat where you can start chat threads, and so your community can be involved. You can even make it so that when they post things, everybody gets a notification. I may have to turn that off. I'm already seeing too many emails go out. But it's something kind of new. I mean, it's kind of unique in the space. It's like a blog platform meets newsletter. But with the addition of being able to directly monetize, I think for authors, it's brilliant. I think every author should have a Substack.
Cool.
I get nothing from these people for that, by the way. No endorsements.
This episode brought to you by Substack. JP, what is in the news?
All right, drinks ready. AI is coming for your audiobooks. You're right to be worried. So AI is entering the world of audiobooks, with digital narration taking place of human narrators. Notable names include Google's personas like Mary and Apple Books voices such as Madison and Jackson. So ultimately, the idea is here juxtaposing AI endeavors with celebrity narrations like Meryl Streep and Claire Danes, and professional narrators are concerned about the potential consequences of licensing their voices to AI. And yeah, so this is something I've heard about months ago, but now I'm starting to see it in more of the popular articles. So I was curious in your guys' take on AI and audio.
Well, this is definitely blowing up. We're going to see it in nonfiction first, because that's basically where it works the best. Once they can figure out how to get an emotional response out of AI and on the audio side, I think we're going to see this on fiction books as well, because it's going to be way more cost efficient. And the other thing that it does, and Joanna's talked about this before, Joanna Penn, it allows you to pick a narrator that basically speaks in your own accent. Like she would love to hear a particular book, read by a British, female. She can't just pick that. But I think that kind of thing is coming. It's going to be coming pretty soon. The other angle that I see here is, we're going to see a lot of celebrities just licensing themselves, their voice, their image, their this, their that. And then that's going to be around forever. I just watched The Flash, the new movie. Spoiler alert, Christopher Reeves is in it.
Oh, wow.
And
that
I
is
haven't
a
researched
spoiler.
this
Thanks,
yet.
JD.
Yeah. It's in one of the commercials too.
You can't just spoiler alert and then immediately spoil it. You got to give me a chance to plug my ears.
No, that's not how it works.
If you haven't seen it yet, it's on you. You've had time. But the point is, like, I'm wondering, like, did he give permission for this? If he did, or the family, the estate, whatever. But like, this is just going to become a regular thing because it is getting so easy for the film studios to do it. There's no reason for them not to go with a known commodity. So again, we've talked about this before. We're going to see Tom Cruise for the next 200 years in movies, as the star.
Yeah, and I saw that there were some narrators who licensed their voice, and that's all hush hush. But they got what they would make in 4 years, like. That's hard to turn down. I did read this article in full, and I think there's a biased slant to it, even though I agree and I prefer human narrators. But I wish they had talked to some younger people, like some Gen Z. Yeah. I think there's a generational gap. And I've said this with music, like I can't stand auto-tune. My son can't even hear it, right, at all. The Discords that I'm in with the younger writers, people in their 20s, they listen to audiobooks at 2 times speed. 2 times more.
Same.
Like, what does it matter who's doing the narration if it all sounds like a chipmunk?
Exactly. There's also one thing, and I'm just going to correct the title. You are not right to be worried. But and the reason I say that is there's a whole lot of this happening. Apple's doing some of this stuff, and they're taking a little flack. Google. But one of the things that people aren't talking about is that this actually opens up opportunities for. So at Draft Digital, we get a lot of people who are sight impaired, who are looking for ways to make it easier and less expensive for their readers to access their books via audio. That this is a use case for this. Not every author has the budget to go pay someone to do a narration. So having a really nice sounding, even if it's not as emotive as you might want it to be, having this option is great for those readers. They're loving it. The sight impaired readers that we've encountered love that this is available. And that's just one use case I can think of where this is a good thing. I understand the sky is falling notion that everyone has about this, but this is inevitable, and it's don't fight it. Let's find out how you can incorporate it, use it to benefit you and your business instead of dying on this hill. Let's figure out how to raise every ship, to mix a whole bunch of different metaphors and sayings.
Yeah, I use text to speech a ton with a bunch of different things, especially if I don't have access to the audio. And I almost foresee this being another tool that authors can have that's a cheaper bar to entry for people that just want to listen to it for some reason or another, but at 2.5 speed. And then to have those bigger production pieces as part of like a unique audio experience. I mean, Neverwhere from Neil Gaiman, I think I've bought like 3 different versions of the audio because I love the radio play, for example. Yeah. And there are just pieces of that I think knowing that it's a human behind it and knowing like even seeing the behind the scenes pieces of that, like there's a different type of connection that you can have with those more special pieces of audio.
Yeah. Also, I want to add one quick thing before we move to the next AI story. What people I think don't think about is just like ebooks are a different market for readers than print books, and even paperbacks are a different market than hardcover. An audiobook is a different market. These AI narrated books are just a market. You can still get a human narrator. And what you'll have is the ability to appeal to different audiences. There are definitely readers who don't want to hear AI read. They don't, whether they would recognize it or not, they don't care about it. They don't like it for whatever reason. They want a human narrator. We'll take the profits from those AI books and hire the narrator to read the book. And if you really feel strongly about it, take the AI off the market. You're not signing anything that sets it in stone forever.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think they're going to be two different markets. Just like if AI is writing books and humans are writing books, those are going to be two different markets as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up is not an AI story.
Woo.
Private equity firm buys Simon & Schuster. Simon & Schuster, Big Five publisher, will soon be owned by private equity firm KKR, marking the first time a big publisher is owned by a private equity entity. So this entity is known for its takeover of Nabisco, currently owns companies such as Overdrive, which is ebook distributor, and they recently sold audiobook publisher RB Media at a significant profit. So there are concerns here regarding private equity ownership of publishers and all of this other bits of information, but this is interesting times.
Yeah.
I see this as a good thing because the publisher themselves, I mean, for the most part, they're owned, they're run, they're operated by book lovers. Like that tends to be, I think, their number one goal. We love books, and we've got a publishing company. In this case, it's going to basically become all about the money. That's their job as a private equity firm. They've got shareholders they've got to answer to. So as of the sale of this company, the day they bought it, Simon & Schuster is making X dollars. 1 year from that date, they need to be making more dollars. So they're going to streamline it. And I think that's going to light a fire under a lot of people. They may not like what happens. People are going to lose jobs. Other people are going to come in. There's going to be a lot of shuffling around. But I'm hoping that we're going to see this cause the other publishers to hopefully take notice and maybe make some changes of their own. Because if everybody in that industry continues to do what they're doing, they're in trouble. There's a lot, we just saw major layoffs at Penguin Random House. They need to make some changes there too. So hopefully these guys can pave the way. I mean, if another private equity firm bought, Waterstones, they bought Barnes and Noble, and they've, more or less turned those companies around. So I'm hoping we see that here with Simon & Schuster as well.
Yeah, I like that they own Overdrive because they have connections with the library, and things change, but they've stated that Simon & Schuster is already lean. They can't afford to lose employees or editors, so that's awesome. And then, I'm hopeful this is a good thing, but they're talking about creating an equity ownership system for the employees so that they can participate in owning part of the company, which I don't know. That sounds cool to me. Hopefully that's voluntary. So I don't know what you think about that.
I really feel like this was like an opportunity buy because of the block from the SEC. And I think that this could potentially just be something where they're sort of bridging for a bit, get it to a point where it is profitable, make it attractive to somebody, sell it to somebody else. That's what it feels like to me. But I could be wrong.
Well, they got it a lot less than Penguin Random
for
House
a lot
offering,
less,
right? Because Penguin Random House was $2.2 billion, and they got it for 1.6. So that's some significant money, right? Yeah.
And sometimes these firms will buy something like this in order to dismantle it and sell the pieces. So they could still earn that same money. I hope that's not what they do because Simon & Schuster has been around forever, and I'd hate to see it go. But if you can't sell it as a brand, you can sell it as components. So they may be looking to do that.
Mm-hmm. Last up, is an update. So judge approves final injunction in publishers and Internet Archive copyright case. So judge ruled in favor of the Internet Archive, limiting a permanent injunction to cover only the plaintiff's print books that also have digital editions available. Plaintiffs' publishers have argued the injunction should cover all their commercially available books. So this is an update. Looks like it was in the favor of Internet Archive.
Yeah, bah humbug. I really feel that the judge made the wrong call here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they said there was a lot of legalese. I tried to read it, and honestly, I'm like, oh, my head hurts after reading this. But it looked like it really won't affect much because most of the books are print and ebook. And then they said books not covered are still enforceable under the Copyright Act. It just wouldn't be with that lawsuit. But I think with record companies like Capitol and Sony also coming after IA, I think they're going to be in trouble.
The only thing I can add is I'm sick and tired of hearing about Internet Archive.
Yeah.
I just want to get it over.
Make them go away somehow.
Yeah.
Make them go away. I don't understand. Well, to me, it always seemed like it was pretty clear cut what should happen. But, when you get the law involved, especially with copyright hasn't had a major update since the 70s. So there's a lot of things that make stories like this even more complicated. So if anything, maybe I'm hoping that all this stuff, this and AI and everything that's happening on the IP front right now is finally going to force some changes and overhauls that have probably needed to happen for at least 50 years. So here's fingers crossed, I guess.
Yep.
This episode is brought to you by AutoCrit. One of the most value-packed memberships for any author, AutoCrit brings you an amazing suite of tools that make it a breeze to plan, write, and edit your books all in one place. AutoCrit takes you far above standard grammar checking or cookie cutter guidance. Instead, it's like having an experienced editor in your genre watching over your shoulder to help you deliver great writing that keeps your audience trapped in the story. You can even compare your writing style to more than 100 best-selling authors right down to the word level, so you can see what the best in the business do to keep their storytelling clean, clear, and crisp. Listeners of the Writers Inc. podcast can now take advantage of lifetime membership for one single fee. That's right, no renewal fees.
Hi, this is JD Barker. I've used AutoCrit for years, and not only has it improved my writing, but it's been a crucial tool with aspiring authors that I've mentored. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just beginning, it'll help you find your weak spots and weed them out. Give it a shot with your latest project. Trust me, your editor will thank you.
Head to autocrit.com/JD to get your lifetime membership. Big thanks to AutoCrit for sponsoring the show.
And with that, JD, who's up this week?
This week we've got Sara DiVello. She's a mystery writer and the creator of the mystery and thriller Mavens, which she's interviewed basically everybody from Bleak Child to some of the biggest debuts out there. Her latest book is called Broadway Butterfly, just released at the beginning of this month. Here she is, Sara DiVello.
Sara DiVello, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Patrick. I'm thrilled to be here.
You bet. You know, I feel like I already know you, and I've never met you until today. And the reason is you have a very big presence on social media.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad to connect with so many amazing people and writers and readers. And it's such an incredible tool to be able to connect with people that you've never met, and then you get to meet them.
So let me ask you this. What is your strategy, or is there a strategy behind it?
Yes. Okay. So there are sort of two prongs to my social media presence. Okay. So the first prong is just me, Sara. Mm-hmm. And that is a way for me. So I use my Sara DiVello channels to connect with other readers, writers, and people who are interested in the writing and publishing process. So it's kind of just, here's me and sharing my life, my writing, my process, my research, my dog, my cooking, all my favorite things. Okay. And then I also have my Mystery and Thriller Mavens series. So that is a volunteer authors helping authors initiative that I started when the pandemic descended to help my fellow writers get the word out about their books in the wake of canceled in-person events. So I always say this is a chance for writers to get the word out and for readers to meet their favorite writers or connect with their next favorite writer, someone they've never even heard of that I can introduce them to. And so that's the mission behind Mystery and Thriller Mavens. And that is, so those channels focus purely on, here's some, new authors you may want to meet. I'm interviewing, come and hang out with us, ask these authors questions, get to know them. And I try to have something for everyone on my Mystery and Thriller Maven series. So that means, every subgenre in the mystery and thriller world, from police procedurals to, horror and everything in between.
Excellent. Now, let me ask you this. Where did you learn your marketing? I know you had a PR job for years that you walked away from, and we will get back to Mystery and Mavens again, because I think that's very interesting and it's really cool. I like it. Where did you learn your marketing? How did that all start?
So, yes. So before I became a writer, I did PR and marketing in the corporate world for 14 years. And the way that started was, I was the first in my family to go to college. No one had ever, done that before. I come from a very, very modest background, hard scrabble background. And I really wanted to do that. I really wanted to learn. I really wanted to go to college. So I worked my way through the whole 4 years, and I happened to work my way through in the university's PR office, their college relations office. And so as I was getting my degree in communications, I was also getting hands-on experience in the PR and marketing field. And so when I graduated with that degree and with that experience, I went right into PR and marketing career. And so I did that for, various companies, various clients, both in-house and agency side. And that is where I learned how to think strategically about looking at a product or a brand or a person, and then thinking about how to reach the audience that they want to reach. So whether you're marketing dog food or a book, it's the same strategy of, who do I want to reach? What do they want? And how can I reach them by being of service to them, by being of interest to them?
So obviously you have your marketing hat on, and that's going to help you, sell books. What are some of the common mistakes and errors that you see authors make when it comes to marketing, social media, etc.?
Oh, Patrick, that is such a great question. And I'm so glad you asked, because the mistakes are pretty much the same. So the number one mistake is, people are out there speaking about what they want to speak about instead of what the audience wants to hear. So that is a subtle but important shift. So my advice to everyone, and what I try to embody in my own work and posting, is, how can I be of service? How can I be of service? It's not about talking about what I want. It's not about going out there and saying, buy my book, because in this busy, oversaturated world, nobody wants to be sold to. It's about coming out. It's about going out into the world and being of service. So it's about looking at your audience and thinking, what do they want and how can I help them? So it's a mindset of switching from sales to service. So at the end of the day, you still want to connect authentically with people, and hopefully they will buy your book. But the way that you connect with them and the way that you speak with them and engage with them is really different. So for instance, if an author has a book coming out, and let's say the book is a police procedural. So instead of coming out and saying, my book is coming out, next week, everyone please pre-order, please buy it, which of course is what every author wants. That's what we want. Right. That's what we're all here for.
Sure.
Another more effective way to get to that same goal would be to start to talk about the themes inherent in the book that would be of interest to people. So you might say something like, hey, guys, in my career as a police officer in Milwaukee for 25 years. Wait, did you say 25 years?
Yeah, it's 25. Yeah.
For 25 years, I saw some crazy stuff. And I'm going to share some of the things that I saw, thinly veiled, of course, in the pages of my new book coming out next week. Or, hey guys, a lot of people have, wonder what's it like to wear, to wear the blue. Everybody wants to know, what's it like to wear a shield? What's it like to be in a high speed chase? What's it like to pursue an assailant? What's it like to kick down a door? What is it like to put your life on the line every single day? Well, I'm going to tell you in the pages of my brand new book coming out next Wednesday. And so it's about thinking about what people would be interested in and hooking into it that way, connecting with them, so that you're saying, here's a chance for you to learn. Here's a chance for you to be entertained. Here's a chance for me to share some information, peel back, the lid on this, tell you what it's really like. And isn't that inherently, as you're listening to this, sounding more interesting to you as a reader than, hey, everybody, buy my book?
Now, here's the rub. How do you know as an author what people want to, hear? You're saying it's like, just don't tell them, instead of, hey, go buy my book. You should, be of service, and, you're kind of giving the little teasers and stuff. What's a way to laser focus that?
We're all readers first, right?
Sure.
So it's thinking about what is interesting to you as a reader. Not every book is going to be for every person, and that's
right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Not everyone's going to like police procedurals, and those poor jerks are missing out, right? But the people who do are going to find you. So it's about looking at the contents of your book, looking at the themes and the sub themes, and the hook, the juicy stuff that you're really interested in, and pulling those out to think of what would be most interesting to me as a reader. Because I think most of us write the books that we want to read. So it's about switching from your writer mindset to your reader mindset. What do I love to read? What fascinates me about this book? So that's one half of it. But then I think the other thing that people do is they think, oh, my life isn't that interesting, or I don't have anything to share, that is so exotic or so crazy. And, I'm not, I'm not Jack Reacher chasing down the bad guys through a crowded bazaar,
sure.
Right? I've never been to a crowded bazaar, or whatever. But what we have to remember is that everything is exotic to someone else. So I was on a writer's retreat one time, and the person speaking said, Sarah, I think you need to try to infuse, this was for my first book, which is about working in the corporate world and eventually gathering the courage to leave the corporate world to pursue what is more interesting, authentic, and true for me, which was a career in writing. And she said, bring me into that corporate world. And, she said, what color was the carpet? And I said, well, it was beige. She said, well, what did the copy room smell like? And I thought to myself, who cares? But she said, I said, everyone, that's so boring. And she said, I've never worked in an office. I have no idea what it's like. I don't know what it's like to sit in a cube. I don't know what it's like to want to sit in an office. And when she started saying, asking me, what does the copy room smell like? What color was the carpet? What did you wear? How did it feel to wear heels all day? did your feet hurt at the end of the day? It was those details she said, every world is exotic to someone else. And so I started thinking, about that, and how can the mundane become interesting? How can you write it as interesting? How can you position it as interesting to someone who's never been in that? So for you, Patrick, maybe you think, oh God, another interrogation room, snooze. But for the rest of us, we're like, ooh, an interrogation room. What does that smell like? What does that feel like? Does it smell like sweat and stale coffee? Does it smell like, cinder blocks? I don't know. I would want to know though, Mm-hmm. And so it's about taking the mundane and making it interesting to people who have never walked in those shoes. So I think so back to your question, the mistakes that most writers make is you want to come from a place of service. You want to pull out the themes that would be of interest to you as a reader, and therefore to your target readers, assuming that you have written a book that would be of interest to yourself, which I think we all have.
Sure.
And number 3, you want to find ways to make the mundane interesting. Those are sort of my top tips. Additionally, you want to share authentically, and you want to share often. I think a lot of people stay quiet until their book is out in a month or a week or whatever. And then they go hard, but they haven't, on buy my book, but they haven't brought people along for the journey of what it took to get to that book. And so people don't feel invested in the process. Whereas if you had been sharing, back in my days as a police officer in Milwaukee, I used to, spend my days on the beat or, in the cruiser, or walking the streets or riding a bike or riding a horse or whatever, you did.
Right.
And I'm putting that in chapter 12 where my protagonist, is out patrolling and runs into this situation, blah, 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 blah. So if you've brought people into the world building of this book, they're going to be more invested when that book comes out because you've brought them along on it.
I think that's a good segue to social media, because
Yes.
that's one of the ways you can do this, and it doesn't cost any money. It costs time.
Yes.
It can be a time suck.
Yes.
And you want to do it efficiently and effectively.
Yes.
And I'm a huge fan of the saying, dig the well before you're thirsty. And that's exactly what you were just saying.
Yes, exactly.
Instead of a stranger coming out of nowhere, hey, buy my book. They already know you, maybe, share a little tidbits about your process, some of the research that you did perhaps, or something like that, and kind of hook them in that way. So when it comes to social media, what are some of your do's and don'ts you think for authors?
Yeah, great question. So another thing that authors do wrong is they avoid it because they feel uncomfortable or because it feels icky. But the reason it feels icky is because they're coming from a sales perspective instead of a service perspective. So if it feels bad for most of us to be out there hawking a book, right? Saying,
Right.
buy my this, buy my that.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't feel good. It feels, icky.
Spammy. Yeah. Icky.
Feels spammy.
Yes.
So then most people avoid it. And then we get to the juncture of, oh crap, my book is coming out in a week. I better, announce that it's for sale. And then we get into the dig ourselves into the hole that we've been talking about. Whereas if you're coming from a service perspective and you feel good about it because you're not trying to sell anything, you're just sharing your research. You're sharing your day. You're sharing the library that you went to do research. You're sharing the interrogation room that you went in for 25 years. You're sharing what it's like to be in a cruiser. You're sharing what it's like to, be pounding down the street after a bank robber. Whatever it is, you're sharing authentically. So it doesn't feel icky because you are coming from a place of service. You're sharing information. So at the end of the day, I always say to people, why do you follow the accounts that you follow? And people say, oh, because, they're funny or, I learned something or I like that person. So when you boil it down, the things under those feelings are people follow accounts to be educated, to be entertained, or to be connected. That's why if you think about why you follow the accounts that you follow, those are ultimately the nucleus reasons of why you do. And so you have to think to yourself, am I informing? Am I educating? Am I entertaining? Am I connecting? And that is the energy of authentic connection. And that's what I want to, and when I teach workshops or I speak on the topic at writers' conferences, this is what I tell people. Because A, you're adding value. B, you're being authentic. C, you're being of service. And guess what? That doesn't feel icky. That feels real. So then you stop avoiding it because you're not afraid of being salesy.
So one of the biggest objections to something like this, when people are listening to this, is, hey, I'm an author, but I'm an introvert. I'm painfully introverted. I don't like being around people. I'm not going to be dancing on TikTok. I'm not going to be doing any of this stuff. What's your suggestion?
I'm an introvert, Patrick. I am a painful introvert. I am happiest at home, cooking and curled up with my dog and reading a book or watching great TV. I am absolutely an introvert. That doesn't, and I think a lot of people think that introverted means you're only, comfortable in your little writer hole, curled up which I am, but that, a misconception about introverts is that you can't, is that you're agoraphobic. You can't leave your house. And that is false. That's a separate condition. I actually, most introverts are very socially adept, and when they need to, can go out into the world and can be on. What defines an introvert versus an extrovert is what recharges you. Extroverts are recharged by social interaction, by going to a party, by going to an event, by going to a dinner party and talking and engaging. That drains me. As an introvert, what recharges me is silence, stillness, and being at home alone.
Wow. Okay.
So what I say to people is, first, let's get clear on what an introvert and what an extrovert is, and it's what recharges you. The second thing is, the glorious thing about social media is that you do it excuse me, from home.
Right. You don't have to leave.
You don't have to leave. Social media was made for introverts. And maybe an extrovert is, dancing on TikTok and, to sell their dance course, or maybe because they just derive joy from dancing. That's not me. But what is comfortable for me as an introvert is to, in the sanctuary of my home, curled up with my little dog, I can post, a video or a lip sync meme, or, a picture of me typing, or, my coffee and my manuscript and a red pen, and say, hey, I'm editing today. That's very easy for introverts. Social media was literally made for introverts.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. What specific platform or platforms do you think are most helpful for authors?
That is such a great question, and so important, because exactly as you said at the beginning of the show, social media is free monetarily, but there is a cost in terms of time and energy. And I've come to think of time and energy as a currency, just like money. So just like none of us has endless amounts of money, neither do any of us have endless amounts of time or energy. So how do you want to spend and invest your time and energy? So when you're looking at the available platforms, you want to be thinking of it and looking at it through that lens. How do I want to spend and invest my time and energy? Where? So the biggest platforms right now are, of course, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Now, Twitter has the lowest conversion rate to in-person sales, by which I mean people who follow you on Twitter and then from a link that you post, buy a ticket to your book launch, buy your book, buy a ticket to your whatever. Mm-hmm. Instagram has the highest conversion. So 30% of Instagram users have bought something only because they've seen it posted about on Instagram. That is the highest conversion rate across all social media platforms. So I always advise my people to heavy up on Instagram. If you're making a choice between the platforms, heavy up on Instagram, because at the end of the day, unless you are just deriving joy from posting videos or content, if you are looking to make a strategic investment of your time and you are looking to convert to sales, you want to go where the conversion rate is the highest. Now, TikTok is the wild card that people are still trying to figure that out. And the book industry is still trying to figure that out. Nobody was paying attention to TikTok until the pandemic. Now, during the pandemic, two sisters aged 13 and 15, who are the most successful book talkers, that's what they call the book
talk
people, got a book published in 2012 onto the New York Times bestseller list in 2020. And everyone was like, whoa. Nobody in the book industry had been paying attention to TikTok until they did that, because it is unheard of. An 8-year-old book that is a Greek tragedy with a non-triumphant ending. Spoiler alert, he dies. Right? But these two sisters, 13 and 15 years old, did that. And they posted this crying video. And it went viral where they're like, he died, and it started this trend of people crying on TikTok over the saddest book they've ever read. And how sad was it? It was so sad you couldn't get out of your car in the Target parking lot. It was so sad you couldn't get out of the bathtub. It was so sad you went through 3 boxes of tissues. And so all of a sudden, that is, when that went viral and everyone started buying that book, that is when people started saying, oh, wow, TikTok can actually impact sales. And then the book industry sat up, took notice, and started having everyone stampede over to TikTok. The word is the jury is still out. The word is not final on what the value of TikTok is to us in the book industry, because the truth of the matter is most people go on TikTok, watch a funny video, and log off. They do not end up following that creator. That is different from every other platform. Every other platform that you watch something funny, you laugh, or you watch something informative, you learn, and then you follow the creator. But in TikTok, that is not panning out. So the value of someone spending the time doing a video that people watch but don't follow for more content is unclear for us as authors.
What do you think about doing one piece of content, like say on TikTok, and then blasting it onto Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or just repurposing it?
I think that's a great idea. And that's what I do.
That's what I do too. Yeah.
I need to heavy up on TikTok more. I have been lazy and I need to do better on that. The one thing that's not ideal is when, they put the watermarks, that little T. It's not the best. It's a little sloppy, but it's okay. And there are ways around that. So if you post something as an Instagram reel and you save it as you download it before you post it, there is no watermark. So that's a little hack. And then you can take that video, put it on TikTok, put in the cool transitions and whatever that TikTok has that are way superior to Instagram, post it on both places, and then repurpose it. And I do that. Absolutely.
Now, Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Yeah. That's on YouTube exclusively, right?
It's on Facebook and YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah. So that goes live to 7 different destinations across Facebook and YouTube. So I stream in partnership with one of the rare and valuable mystery dedicated bookstores in the country, Murder by the Book, which is a woman-owned independent bookstore and one of the most incredible industry-leading mystery-dedicated bookstores in the country. They are based in Houston, Texas, and I stream to their channels as well as my own, their Facebook and YouTube, my Facebook and YouTube, as well as I have streaming partnerships with some of the colossal book groups on Facebook.
Okay. How often a week do you do that?
I do interviews every Monday for #MysteryMonday.
Ah, very good.
And
all right.
Yeah, that's my jam.
Okay. Yeah. I wanted to go back to that because that is cool. I was surfing around there and you've had some really good guests and they're very high energy, fun interviews. You're very good at what you do.
Thank you so much. So that's actually a great point that I want to bring up. So as an interview, as an introvert, I'm a shy little dork, Patrick. I am again, most comfortable snuggled with my dog, cooking, in the comfort of my home. But when my first book came out and I did an interview with the CBS morning show in Atlanta, the news anchors there told me right before we went live that the medium of a screen cuts your energy in half. So if I'm sitting here talking to you just the normal way that we're talking on screen, I would come across as comatose. So what you have to do is you have to bring your energy up 50% more than what feels normal. So that on screen, you come across as alive.
Well, we do want alive. Yeah, that's a good thing. Yes. Everybody check that out. It is good. And I do enjoy those interviews.
Thank you.
So Broadway Butterfly, could you give us just a quick synopsis of the book?
Yes. So Broadway Butterfly is the story. It is a true crime thriller, and it is the true story of the unsolved murder of a Manhattan it girl in 1923 who turns up murdered dead in her bed wearing only a scandalous negligee that barely reached her knees. This is 1923.
1923, yeah.
And the ramifications that ripple from the gangster world all the way up to the White House.
Outstanding. So what were some of the problems or challenges for the research of this?
So the problems and challenges are are long. So I had no idea that writing a book about an unsolved crime from 100 years ago would be challenging. Poor jerk.
Oh boy.
Poor jerk. Yeah, exactly. So the challenges were several. Number one, true crimes, you have to stick to the truth. Number two, 100 years ago. So everybody who investigated the case and involved in the case is dead. And number 3, a lot of things have changed. So things that you would just casually reference, like, oh, this takes place in Manhattan. Oh, walking down Fifth Avenue, da 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 da. Wait, did they call it Fifth Avenue 100 years ago? Oh, darn. Sure. Not only what, or Fifth Avenue actually is the same, but, a lot of the street names have changed. The traffic directions had changed. She zipped up her coat. Oh, wait, did they have zippers back then?
Yeah, just little stuff like that. Sure.
Right. She got in the car and rolled down the windows. Did the windows roll down in 1923, cars? It was the research both of the time period and of the crime itself, which was incredibly complex, that took me so long. My research took me some incredible places, though. I mean, I spent untold numbers of hours in the bowels of the New York Public Library, Milstein microfilm room, going through reels of microfiche and printing out stuff. I got research passes to the rare books collection at the University of Pennsylvania, Columbia University, Herbert Hoover Presidential Museum. Some other amazing presidential museums, the JP Morgan Museum. I got access to these incredible rare books, places where you have to scrub your hands and put on white gloves and put your stuff in a locker to be allowed to go in there. So
that's neat.
Yeah, it was really neat. It was also very time consuming.
So you wrote the book and you sold it at auction?
I did.
What is that? Could you explain it real quick?
Yes. So I didn't, I was shocked, and I'm so grateful. But basically what it means is my agent went out to acquisitions editors at, a targeted list of publishers and said, here's what we're doing. And we're doing something really different, which is that the story is true crime, but I'm telling it in the style of a traditional mystery novel. So most true crimes are like journalistic and you hear the voice of the narrator. I'm telling it through 4 POVs in the story: the detective who investigated it, the reporter who covered it, the woman who worked for the murder victim who found the body, and a society woman who is working on the presidential reelection. So we didn't know how the industry would receive this, because this is a genre mashup that hasn't been done before, to the best of my knowledge. And she said, my agent, Liza Fleissig, said, we could go out and they could say, oh my God, this is brilliant. Why hasn't anyone ever done it like this? Or they could say, what are you guys smoking? There's a reason we don't do it like this, And we got both of those reactions. But we got our first offer, then we got our second offer, then the offer started coming in. And awesome. I'm so lucky that multiple publishers wanted to buy this book. And so then it became a bidding situation where it was, where my agent was going around saying, okay, how invested in this are you? What are you willing to pay? Sure.
So in the spirit of mystery and thriller mavens, you usually ask one question towards the end: what's one secret nobody knows about you? Now I'm going to ask you, what's one secret that nobody knows about you?
Oh my gosh. Let's see.
I'm turning the tables on you, Sara.
And I suddenly realize it's scary on the side of the table. Patrick, I am not the type of gal who usually goes to psychics. Like, that's not something that I do. But I ended up hiring a psychic who works with law enforcement to solve cold cases.
Okay.
And I went in and I thought, is this going to work? I mean, how crazy? Because I hit a dead end on my research and I thought, I really want to solve this. How am I going to solve this? And there was no other paths to explore. And I thought, I guess I'm going to be a gal who goes to psychics now. And so I hired a psychic who works with law enforcement on cold cases. And she gave me a book changing clue that made me rewrite the entire book.
No kidding.
But it was worth it.
That is awesome. I really like that. That's awesome. All right. Well, we're going to finish this up here, everybody. Broadway Butterfly coming out. I believe it's August 1st. Is that when it's coming out?
August 1st, 2023.
All right. Everybody go out and get it. It's a great book. What's next for you, Sara?
So I am staying in the true crime genre mashup that I am working in, and so I am going to write another book like this about unsolved murders. There's something about that is so fascinating to me. I mean, I am a person who likes closure. I like things to be understandable, and so I'm gonna stay in this genre.
I was really delighted that Sara talked so much about social media because it's something that I struggle with. I really liked, yeah, everybody's laughing. I really liked what she had to say. Nobody wants to be sold to, and I hate doing that buy my book thing on social media. I liked what she said about, it's about being of service. What do they want and how can I help them? And I've heard that before, and it's always been a bit of a struggle. I'm like, well, they want books and I have books, but I don't want to push the books because that's icky, right? But I really like what she said about taking the mundane and making it interesting to those who have never walked in those shoes. And that's something that I forget, like in my job too, that what I do, other people don't know, or it's
kind of like this
them.
podcast.
Yeah.
Take the mundane and make it interesting.
Is that what we do? We talk about fridges.
Refrigerators.
We do talk about fridges.
Well, I think the way she's spun it at the very beginning, people promote what they want rather than what people want to hear. Mm-hmm. If you really think about that, that is just so true. I mean, like I hate social media. I'm on social media to sell books, but that's not why people are going to, view my profile or view whatever I post. They don't care that I'm out there to sell books. They want to be entertained, or they're looking at it for some other reason. And I think we all need to just kind of take a step back and kind of look at it as the viewer or the user rather than the person pushing the product, which is what she's done. Like after I listened to this interview, I went out and I looked at some of her social media, her posts and the different things she's got out there. They're entertaining. Like I subscribe to them after watching them. They're funny. Like they make me laugh. And like, if I go through the stuff that I personally subscribe to, that's the kind of thing that I tend to hit the follow button on, or the like button. It's the things that bring me some type of joy. I've never once done it on somebody because they were trying to push their product at me.
Yeah. I do not. I don't. I mean, I will occasionally promote a book or something on social media if I have a promotion going on, but I really don't. I've written it off as a way to sell books. But what it is good for is, we each of us as an author, we are ourselves the brand, and it is good for establishing what that brand is with people and getting people to follow you. So if you focus on like, how am I serving, how am I adding value, what am I providing to the world that would attract them to me, and then you give them the opportunity to connect with you elsewhere. Get on your mailing list, follow you on your website, get on Substack, which is what I'm doing now. But that's where I think that all that work pays off. But honestly, I've dropped out of every social platform except Twitter, or whatever it's going to be called now. I refuse to say that I'm on X because I think that would get used against me.
That's perfect. But, you should always say that.
I'm on X. That's the only one I'm on anymore, and kind of by default, it's just sort of, that's the one that stuck. I occasionally post on Facebook, but I have no interest in Instagram, especially have no interest in TikTok. I just can't. I can't.
So you're not going to change after she said that Twitter has the lowest conversion rate in sales and Instagram the highest? You're going to stick with Twitter?
I'm going to stick with it because in order for me to capitalize on that, it means I have to go and post and engage on Instagram, and I don't want to. So I've decided social media is not for selling books for me. It's for me to broadcast. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. And if anyone sort of latches onto that and likes me and follows me, then they'll have ample opportunity to discover my books. But other than that, I don't know. Social media is a poison, man. I can trace almost every bit of anxiety I've had over the past 10 years to social media.
To all the X you're on? I mean,
it's all that X. I've overdone the X. Yeah.
I find it so overwhelming too, because there have been so many platforms. It was Facebook, then Twitter, then Instagram, then TikTok, then Mastodon. And in the last month, I've joined Threads and Blue Sky. And I'm like, this is too much. Like, I don't know what to do with all of this. Yeah.
Every new platform is the Twitter killer, except Twitter's still around. Twitter's still growing, so nobody's the Twitter killer. But now I have to reserve my username on 1,000 different platforms just to make sure someone else doesn't do it.
Yeah, there's the business model, right? Like, we need to create an app that automatically signs you up for other social media platforms as soon as they're announced. It just automatically creates an account for you.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, with your name, right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
we'll call it Twitter.
Trying to play devil's advocate here. We talked about trademark last week, and JD Barker, I've got trademark, the actual name, and like those things actually did come into play. The fact that I own jdbarker.com, the website, I own the Twitter handle JD Barker, like all of those things were basically needed by my attorney to prove brand, to prove that I had that particular thing. So it is useful from that standpoint. Yeah.
Do you post anything authentically online that's not just like buy my book? What do you post?
That's the thing. I don't know. My wife is fantastic at posting, pictures for holidays or vacations or, just like right now she's outside. She's throwing water balloons around with my daughter. I'm sure there's going to be pictures of that are going to show up on social media. She just like effortlessly does that. I can't. Like, I have to put thought into every little thing that I post up there. I have to decide whether or not it's going to be useful or, bad or hurt or indifferent or whatever. But like, it's not a fun thing for me. Like, I'll look at a picture on my camera roll on my phone and say, okay, I could probably use this. And this is it's work, and that's why I farm out as much of it as I possibly can.
Yeah. She did have some good tips though. That download before you post on TikTok will change my life. So I'm totally going to steal that.
There's also a different tool that pulls the logo off too.
Oh, okay.
Fun fact.
Cool. Yeah. So, all right. I was curious about this psychic thing. I didn't know. Like, I read about it in fiction. Thanks. Of course, Kevin is our psychic. I'm not sure that's true though. But I was like, I didn't know that like psychics actually do work with cops. Maybe I did know this, but I was just like, I don't know. What do you know about that? Have you ever used cop psychics in your fiction or been to a psychic?
I'm pretty sure if a homicide detective is talking to a psychic, he is going into a room on the far side of the police precinct where nobody can hear that conversation before he makes that phone call. Because you've got to be pretty desperate, I think, to go there. I've always seen it as entertainment. I remember when I was 14, I went to one at a carnival, and she told me I was going to die in a plane crash when I was 29. So I did not fly in an airplane until I was 29. Like my very first flight, I was 29 years old. And I'm still here.
Okay. You can't prove that.
Yeah. Maybe she somehow changed something. She, ripped a hole in the fabric of time and this and that.
Have you seen Final Destination?
You never know. But who knows? I mean, there's so much crap out there that we don't understand. Maybe 100 years from now, they may prove that it is 100% true. Psychics are completely real, and we should have all been using them this whole time.
You want to know how I know it's a real thing? The CIA invested in this, man. So I'm just going to say
they got a bunch of people stoned and gave them LSD in a little room. That's
did what they got to do. But they put actual government money on this and wrote whole manuals about it and everything. I'm just going to say that it's probably real. Maybe
I'm pretty sure that the government spent $1 billion last year teaching chickens how to run a maze too. They're not very good.
And they can do that. See, you're just proving my point, JD. The government put the money in.
I think regardless of whatever's happening over on that side of the conversation wall, the fact that she used a psychic and it helped unknot something with the story, that adds to how I like to incorporate tarot into writing, because it adds an aspect of chaos and it pulls you out of your headspace and puts in something that you can then latch onto that you hadn't thought of. So regardless of validity or not, I think that was a really cool aspect that she approached to help with her storytelling.
Yeah. I'm not dismissing that it's a possibility. I'm just scared. I just want to stay in my bubble and not have to change my worldview. So that's all.
I'm a big believer in synchronicity. And, I am of the Christian faith. And so I think God talks to me through synchronicities. I mean, for example, I was in a Barnes & Noble during a point recently where I was just full on having anxiety attacks. And I looked down and there's a book titled Now is Not the Time to Panic. And the author's name was slightly obscured so that his last name was covered by the book on top, but it said Kevin. So it read, now is not the time to panic, Kevin. And so I took that as a sign and calmed down right away. But I'm a big believer in synchronicity. There's more going on in the universe than what we can really perceive or quantify.
That would have completely freaked me the F out. I would have ran out the store screaming. I would have giggled. My car.
The thing is, that wasn't even the first thing. Like every time I'd look up, there'd be another book title or something that was somehow synchronous with what I was thinking or feeling. So, and maybe you could call that the
Isle of Kevin.
You know what? Like 10% of the time or less, I'm thinking about a song on the radio and it comes on.
Ooh, yeah. Spooky.
No, it's just because they played the same songs over and over. Anyway, I had one last question I wanted to ask. And I just wanted to point out, I don't know if you all caught this, that Sara is a master at following her own advice. Because when Patrick asked her about her secret, she made it about her book. And I was like, well done practicing what you preach. That was masterful. So do you all have any secrets that nobody knows that you want to share?
Absolutely not.
That was really two questions.
That was one
do I have
question.
A secret, and do I want to share it?
Okay, that's two questions. Fair. Yeah, fair.
He asked that question at the end of the interview, and like I knew immediately somebody was going to go there when we talked about all this. So I started, hashing through my mental Rolodex, thinking, well, what exactly is out there that I could talk about? And honestly, like there isn't anything because I'm such a horrible liar. I tend to just throw everything out, and I don't really, I've got no filter, being an Aspie. So like I don't really have secrets. Secrets they're too hard to maintain. Because a secret gets spun into a lie, and then you've got to remember this and you've got to remember that. And it just kind of branches off and creates a whole life of its own. And I don't have the bandwidth to deal with that. So yeah, I don't have any. I'm sure I'll think of one maybe when we finally wrap this. But what's yours, Christine? If you're bringing this up, what is your one secret?
I was thinking about this with Sarah's, and I was like, I'll talk about anything too because I'm just blunt, and I'm like, here's TMI for you, blah. But I'll talk a lot about my time in the hospital in the psychology and psychiatry role when I was an intern, and I'll tell most stories. But the one thing I don't usually talk about is just because it's unsettling. Is that I saw electroshock therapy being performed while I was an intern.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah. They do still do it, apparently.
Yep. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
It was unsettling to watch, so I don't usually talk about it a lot. But a lot of that stuff does make it into my books, too. Like, I've talked about TMS in my books. Other little known fact as an intern, I did give Rorschachs, which I'm putting into what I'm working on now. So
homework assignment is to go out and find a psychic and have them flesh out whatever your one secret is, and then work it out.
No.
I've seen electroshock therapy. I am terrified of psychics.
Exactly. And on that happy note, JD, who's up next week?
This one's going to be fun. So we've got a woman named Marcia DiVello. And I'm sure I'm probably butchering her last name. I've known her as Marcia for a very long time. She's worked 33 years as the assistant to one of the biggest authors of our generation. And she recently embarked on a writing career of her own after retiring, basically proving it's never too late to chase your dreams. So this is going to be interesting. We'll see if anybody can figure out whose assistant she was before next week. But I'm looking forward to that one.
Sounds great. If you'd like to be notified as soon as new episodes publish, make sure you go to writersincpodcast.com and sign up now. We'll see you next episode and have a great week of writing.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Writers Inc. Access the show notes and leave a comment at writersincpodcast.com.